Feel free to make a sound or touch anyone here as long as you don't hurt them.
Did you hear that?
I don't know if it was a stone off the truck,
car or something.
but it was like one knock, right? Yeah. And I was like, yo, that was kind of weird.
Yeah.
It wasn't like right away in response. It was like maybe like 5 beats afterwards. It was like, I'm like, yo.
Shortly after the Revolutionary War, David Deal purchased 300 acres of land right here along Laurel Run, and this became the village of Pandemonium, which stood here until 1913. At the end of the late 18th century, David Deal sold his land to John Henry, who settled here with his family. In the years after that, there was a steam tannery erected just a stone's throw from here, which brought families into the valley, and before long, a town popped up here in the middle of nowhere. This cemetery here, the earliest grave dates back to 1855, though undoubtedly there are burials here that predate that time. The town of Pandemonium, the etymology is interesting. Pandemonium means abode of the devils. And according to local legend, the first settlers in this area were German immigrants as well as immigrants from Wales, Scotland, and Ireland. And all the citizens here had a difficult time understanding each other as they all spoke different languages. And somebody, according to legend, said this is Pandemonium, and that's how the village got its name.
My name's Beckie-Ann Galentine. I'm a paranormal investigator located in West Hartford, Connecticut. I've been investigating the paranormal for about a decade after I had my first experience when I was studying biology. After that, I started exploring haunted locations and places of great legends and lore. My first experience was actually in a cemetery, and as someone who worked as a licensed embalmer, I have a bigger interest in things that are either cemetery or funerary related in the paranormal. So a lot of people have different feelings about why a cemetery would be haunted, and I think the question has multiple answers. So when you're investigating a cemetery, you have to consider that not only would there be people interred there, so you have the people interred in the burial grounds, but also the rituals that occur at the graveside, such as mourning and graveside, when people meet at the graveside and they have lunches or they do some sort of ceremony, it creates this embodiment of grief that is, it kind of perpetuates. On top of that, at graveyards like these, you're going to find that you're surrounded by trees and nature spirits, so there's not just the element of the people who are buried there, but also you have the combination of different types of spirits.
So my name is Jules Nolan. I started paranormal investigating like professionally, if you will, only about when the pandemic started, but I've had paranormal experiences since childhood, so there's always been an interest in the paranormal, so to speak. So I grew up on Long Island in New York, and we lived in an area where there was a lot of activity. A lot of houses had a lot of weird things that went on. We always joke that we live on a fault line, but we don't. It's an island. So the first time I ever had an experience was with a shadow person in my bedroom. It's like a long, slender, black figure in the corner of your room. My brother was also having, sleep paralysis and nightmares and things like that. So it just kind of all transpired in early childhood and led to something, I don't know, bigger now as an adult.
You could see that people here have left grave offerings, so it doesn't look like they're connected to any particular grave or decedent here, but there are a lot of toys which would indicate they might have been left for a child.
Yeah.
Perhaps the spirit of the little girl that people believe haunt this place.
I'm inclined to agree. Well, I do know that usually when people enter cemeteries, sometimes they leave a little small offering or gift, so it could be possible that this is just a marker for the cemetery itself. It also could be for someone deceased who is buried outside of the cemetery walls.
Right. There's no name on the monument here, so I know that it is believed that someone's buried outside of the walls of the cemetery, but we're not entirely sure if this is a grave or if this is just, as you said, just a uniform place to leave offerings for the entire cemetery, which seems consistent with what's left here.
Yes.
My name's Krysten.
My name's Brandy.
And we go by Friends with Ghosts. That's our paranormal investigative team. I've been interested in the paranormal since I was young. My father has some really insane experiences with the paranormal that he's had. And so when I was growing up, I was told that ghosts were real and taught that that was non-questionable issue. And when I became an adult and I graduated high school, I went to my first public ghost hunt in 2013, and that was at Transue Lunatic Asylum, and I've been doing it ever since.
For me, I feel like I don't really remember. I feel like I was always interested in it, and then when we started doing it together was really one of your birthdays. I want to say 2014 or 15, we went to the Lizzie Borden house, and then ever since then, that's it.
One of our most memorable and terrifying experiences was, and actually probably the only time I've ever really been scared when we were investigating, we were in Penhurst Asylum, and we were walking through essentially what is their office area, and there was a bunch of different cubicles, and when we were sitting down doing our investigation, we heard something coming from around the corner. So of course I get up, I go and look, we start walking towards it, we start walking around the cubicles, nobody's there, and then we just hear running, straight running at us. I've never ran so fast in my life. We ran down the stairs and we were just like, what?
Yeah. You know when something's just coming at you, you feel like you have to run away? That's exactly what we ended up doing.
It's an instinct. And then when you get down to the bottom of the stairs, you're like, let's go back, because obviously something wants to communicate with us. But the initial not expecting, just expecting to kind of debunk the situation, and then being confronted with just a stampede of what sounded like feet running at us. It was definitely very terrifying.
Yeah, that was definitely terrifying.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Brooke. I'm an actress, and I have always been, interested in the paranormal. I remember watching those paranormal shows that they used to have as early as 12, and I experienced stuff while I was a kid, and I've experienced stuff as an adult and a teenager, and that's pretty much what brought me out here. So my first paranormal experience that I experienced, my grandmother died in my childhood bedroom, and shortly after that I heard whispers of my name while I was home alone in my bedroom during the day, at night, and at one point me and my friend were playing a game on my bed, and my TV turned on, and my bed was kind of in the corner of the room, and my TV remote was on top of my TV. So me and my friends looked at each other and we were like, what was that?
By the 1930s, most of this land was abandoned and controlled by the state. A lot of hunters and campers and fishermen came out this way. And it was around that time that there were numerous sightings of ghosts. According to legends, the ghost was a large, black, menacing figure, which some described as being as large as a barn door.
Whom or what did these experienced hunters and campers encounter in the remote wilderness surrounding Pandemonium? A ghost, a ghoul, a demon, or something else entirely? These brave paranormal investigators will attempt to find out.
All right, who here's done a seance before? Anyone? You? Are you excited? It's your first time?
I am.
You got any good tips for them?
Just be open and try to have a good time. That's really it. That's all we're here for.
Yep, just be respectful, be yourself, and it's a really open communication. It should bring us all together a little bit more than even the campfire did. So I'm excited to see how it affects the activity.
Should we go down to the cemetery now that it's been dark for a few hours?
I think we should.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right.
All right, so we're gonna form a circle and we're gonna open the space for communication. We're coming from a place with respect. So the intention behind the seance is to essentially open kind of like energetic space between everyone who's participating to invite any spirits in this space to communicate with us. And I was thinking that it would be helpful to do it outside of the cemetery, so we're not confining the opening of communication to just the cemetery. We are open to communication within all bounds of this area. I'll start off by saying my name is Becky. I'm formally inviting any spirits that are present with us to communicate. We are opening the space to communicate with you. We come with the intent of respect. We come to perhaps have you share anything with us that you'd like to share. We're only looking to help you and do anything that aids you in maybe figuring out what makes you linger here. During the time that this circle is open between us, you will have the chance to freely communicate, and afterwards we will be closing the communication.
My name is Jules. Just like Becky said, we are here to invite you to communication. We are just looking to bridge a gap between our two worlds. If anyone would like to speak with us, we approach you with the utmost respect, and everyone here feels the exact same.
Hi, I'm Brooke, and like they said, I am just here to respect you guys, and if you guys want to tell us anything, I welcome it with love and respect.
My name is Brandy, and just like everyone else here, I'm just here to listen and respect whatever it is that you want to tell me, you don't want to tell me. I'm just completely open.
Okay, and I am Krysten. Like everyone else said, of course, utmost respect, and we really just want to be able to tell whatever story you may have or whatever information you may want to give us, if any. And we're really just here, again, with the utmost respect and hoping to have some communication.
With that being said, we're opening the circle and you can freely communicate with us, and we are dedicating the space for spirit communication at this time.
Ready to open? Yep. Okay. I'll open.
Trudging into the cold, dark night, the team's hopeful of making a warm connection with the spirits of Pandemonium.
When you're investigating a place like this, you're not just going to encounter the traditional human spirit. You may encounter nature spirits, which are known as elementals, and you're also going to encounter impressions, perhaps egregores and thought forms that are created by people who believe this place to be haunted. So even if it were not haunted to begin with, it could be manifesting itself through what people believe, especially a place like Pandemonium, which has so much lore attached to it. An egregore, or other adjacent terms such as a thought form, some may refer to these as tulpas, are thought projected entities. So, for example, an egregore is something that occurs when many people feel that a place is haunted, or something that is haunted so much that it creates this thought projected manifestation of a haunting. With tulpas, it's typically something that's going to be intentionally haunted, so some people may purchase things or do rituals or conduct things in order to intentionally haunt either an item or a place.
A big thing, especially as someone who connects with clients on a daily basis, for me would be empathy. And when you think about it, we're, for the most part, going to connect with either an elemental spirit or a deceased loved one of someone. And because of that, you have to remember that these people have feelings. They may be confused. And I find that when you are more empathetic in a situation where you're investigating, you're going to have better results. They're going to feel more comfortable possibly speaking with you if it is an intelligent haunting. It's not just a residual haunting, for instance. I think the best opportunity to get an intelligent response is if you just speak to them like they're people. That they're just people that we can't see, but we're still trying to interact with.
Most locals believe that the ghost is the restless spirit of James Hazel, who was murdered in 1882, just on the mountain behind me. According to legend, he was out shortly before Christmas hunting with a friend, and only one of them came back. 4 days later, they found James Hazel's body face down, and when they rolled the body over, there was a big smile on his face. It was evident that he was shot from behind, the bullet piercing his lungs and his heart. No one was ever arrested for the crime. His hunting partner had a valid excuse. There was no evidence to connect him with the murder. But one person who was suspected of the murder was another co-worker. Incidentally, it was the one person in the town of Pandemonium who refused to take part in the search for James Hazel. In the 1850s, the Fugitive Slave Act was passed, which offered a reward for anyone capturing runaway slaves from the South. And legend has it that just behind me, in the corner of this graveyard, a female slave from the South was chased up a tree and shot. Legend states that she is the first burial at the cemetery, although her grave is unmarked. And that is one other possible explanation for the ghostly sightings in this area.
Oftentimes people are investigating ghost towns simply because the name ghost town might imply that there's something supernatural happening there, but there are many reasons why people would choose to linger, or human spirits would choose to linger at a place. For example, if someone was living there their entire life and basically everyone has moved out, but they always felt like that place was their home, it may potentially cause someone to linger in a place that no longer exists. So even with the foundation there, you don't need to have a giant house for spirits to kind of roam around. Even just existing in that place, they may have always felt drawn to. It may have felt like their home, it might have felt unjust, or for example, something like a cemetery where they felt like they had left their loved ones behind might cause them to return.
Something that we all noticed, when we first got here, was the graves still have flowers on them, albeit fake flowers, but not all, dingy and worn out. It shows that people in the community still obviously care. There's definitely a lot of women and children here, so that played right into obviously being empathetic and oh my goodness, my heart. But very obviously they are still cared about, and I'm looking forward to showing that same level of care.
I think having any expectation when doing a paranormal investigation is the first way to come to a failure. I think that having expectations, just like you can have expectations with the living people, you cannot have expectations with people who have departed this world. If they want to have a communication with you, then they will. If they do not, I don't believe in provoking them to do so.
You can't really expect anything.
You cannot expect anything. You can go into something and have no experience. You can have, usually we'll have maybe 1 or 2 unexplainable experiences that we could not debunk. We'll have about 1 or 2 per like maybe 10 hours that we investigate at a time, because we're pretty strict with what we consider an experience or, you know, evidence of any sort. We're pretty strict with that for ourselves.
When I investigate a haunted location, I come in with very little expectations. There are historical records of hauntings documented here, so it's not a recent occurrence where you'll see someone publishes something online and everyone starts to think that something's haunted. It does have historical records of people having experiences, particularly hunters and other people hiking in the woods. However, when I enter a haunted location, it's always a fresh start. I try not to think too much about what other people have experienced, because that may inject a bias into my own investigation. What I'm expecting here is completely unpredictable. With the other investigators on board, it's hard to say what we're going to experience. If anything, there are many times where investigators spend 3 or 4 days at a location without any activity, and as someone who always tries to investigate with integrity, we may experience very little tonight. There's something a little ritualistic when you start to enter a haunted location and you make a very long journey to enter it, because you think about the hauntings and what might manifest on your way there. And as you go up the winding roads to enter Pandemonium, you start to think about the people and the isolation, and you yourself are isolated, and it puts you more on the level of the people who are existing in that place. I set up the tripwire there, which will detect any change in the electromagnetic field. It's a wire of lights that change different colors as something might be passing through. We set it up at the entrance of the cemetery so that if something is passing from inside the cemetery out, or something's just in our general region where we are investigating, we'll be able to see that energy passing as we're communicating using other methods. We also have a motion detected music box that's facing the cemetery, so if there's any physical motion in front of that within 6 feet, we're gonna hear the music box be triggered while Jules is doing the Estes method, which is the sensory deprivation, where she will be using the spirit box and kind of channeling to see what we can get.
All right.
All right, you ready?
Should I go under?
Yeah.
I'm ready to rock.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Good energy, good vibes.
All right, we'll be looking out for you, so if you feel like something is going on, we'll wake you up. If there's anyone here, we're only approaching you with respect. So once again, we are asking if there's anyone present who would like to communicate with us. Would you like to make yourself known?
You.
Hi, could you tell us who's talking?
I'm trying something.
We appreciate you trying any way of communicating with us. It would be really helpful if you could tell us your name. If you can't tell us your name, could you tell us the name of someone important to you?
I'm not going there. You can. It's people.
Yeah, there's a couple people here. We're all trying to communicate with you.
Who, me? Don't like them.
I could hear something walking in the woods.
If that's you walking in the woods, you could come closer to let us know that you're here if you would like to communicate with us.
Just me, it sounds like they are having some sort of apprehension about communicating with us, like they're standing.
There's 3 distinct voices. It's 2 women and a man.
Number one, I can hear something like around the perimeter of the cemetery, like shuffling or something, and it's almost like
I could hear it come from here. If you saw me turn my head, it was when I would hear like almost like a whisper of like a man's voice, and it's like are you sure?
Yeah, so it feels as though they aren't so sure about communicating with us, and for the time period, maybe it's just not appropriate for men to just strike a conversation with strange women, for one, that they don't know, and 2, on top of that, I'm not quite sure what our impression to them is or what we look like to them. Yeah. So it feels like there's just a little bit of apprehension toward making that communication, but that's something that can obviously change throughout the night.
100%.
So
yeah, it sounded like I kept turning my head because it kept sounding only in really this ear. I was really hearing it.
Yeah.
It wasn't coming from like over here.
Yeah, no, I mean, you could literally hear it around the cemetery, just like almost like footsteps, but it's just like we kept asking for them to come closer, and it's just not quite ready for that. And that's the other thing with them being Christian, we're not entirely sure if they're even supposed to be opening communication like that. So at this point, we just really don't have anything definitive. What we're feeling is essentially apprehension towards communication, be it for religious reasons or if it's maybe even a non-human spirit. We don't know. Just the messages are not coming through. Like they're consistent, like it's consistently similar messaging, so it's not like completely convoluted or no connection at all. It just sounds like they're communicating with each other, like talking to each other about staying away from us, like deciding whether or not they want to open that line of communication, because it may have been quite some time before someone actually communicated with them, and or if ever, so they have to decide if it's safe to talk to us, and that might take a little bit of building trust as we progress in the investigation.
Yeah, like when I was under, it sounded almost like 2 voices, like periodically asking a question to each other. Almost like a call and answer to each other.
And this is something like if someone were comfortable praying or doing something that might be more akin to their faith, we might have better results because...
Who's a Christian?
I mean, I was confirmed.
So was
I think everyone knows the Lord's Prayer.
I mean, I go to churches all the time.
Yeah, I think it would be something that we could attempt as like...
We could try
saying the Lord's Prayer is something that would show them that we understand.
Yeah.
Because I think we look different, obviously, and we don't practice their faith. So if there's something that we can show that they can identify.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
The team's bend, don't break attitude propels them further into the night.
Visitors to the cemetery will notice that there are a large number of children's graves. Many of these graves are unmarked, and their names have been lost to history. The reason for that is, being that this is such a remote area, the nearest medical care would be over the mountain behind me, which would be about a 10-mile travel to the nearest town, or about 10 miles over the mountain on the other side. As a result, medical care here was non-existent. Many of the adult females buried here passed away at an early age, which leads many to believe that they died while giving birth. At its peak, the population here couldn't have been more than 50 or 100 persons. Everybody who lived here knew everybody else. Everybody's lives were intertwined. With so much heartbreak that took place in this village, it's understandable that the energies of all these deceased children and murder victims and possibly even fugitive slaves from the South all converge in this one location, and that is probably why there is so much paranormal activity centered in this area.
This is a conversation in the paranormal community. Basically, a lot of cases are emerging where the haunting is manifested by the thought that whoever is haunting the place just wants to be remembered. So when you're experiencing something, like I said, in a graveyard, you know, people want to be memorialized. When you start to see things like graves that are desecrated, yes, we're not haunted by bodies the human spirit is not equivalent to human remains. However, there is some nature that is involved in grief and the afterlife that ties it together. Steeped in folklore, what you're going to find are stories of white, gray, or blue ladies, which is something you may experience at a cemetery because they're often found as someone who had experienced a very great loss. So a white, gray, or blue lady might have lost their child, might have been waiting for someone to return who never did. This may also be the case where someone was at a cemetery every single day and experiencing a great loss. And so as the wife or whoever visits a grave every single day, they may continue to manifest in that way. We're going to take a little bit of a break, give her a break from doing the Estes, as channeling can be pretty exhausting, especially when you're doing it for quite some time like she was. And what we're going to attempt to do is essentially create a bigger connection with these spirits and let them know that they can trust us and we understand them. Because of the location and the time period, they were likely Christian, so we're going to try and potentially bring out a prayer or something that might make them feel a little more connected to us, as we're pretty sure that we look different to them. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. So we're going to try the Estes method again. If someone wants to attempt to go under, is comfortable doing that, they're more than welcome to.
I'll do it. I need to get my bag.
Okay, you have your own stuff?
Yeah, I have my own stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. See y'all later.
Later. If there's someone here who would like to communicate with us, can you tell us your name? Did you hear the prayer that we gave for you? Our friend can hear you if you send messages to them using the noise. No, there's something walking back there.
Oh shit.
Is that a branch right there, or is that...
Is there somewhere we can go where we can talk to you better?
It's hard because it's so much going on. Like...
I mean, it's not a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing. It's just... Like, you could probably hear it. It's like...
Yeah, mine,
you know?
Mine sounded like almost like Morse code. It was like...
That's kind of what it sounds like.
Yeah.
What?
While you were under, we heard like a little
We heard something
footstep,
behind you.
yeah, behind us.
Love that for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully I can discern some information from this.
Well, if there's anyone here that we previously made contact with the last time that we tried with the device, our friend Krysten is listening to a device that if you talk...
Speak to me.
Are you able to communicate with us?
4.
We're trying to gather evidence that there are still people lingering here in this town of Pandemonium.
How long have you been here?
Maddening? It's something maddening. Somebody save him.
We're just looking to help you, and by knowing who you are, we can talk to you a little better about what happened.
No.
Are our candles bothering you? Because they're fire?
It isn't what you think.
By fire.
I'm thinking like...
It starts now.
Is it easier for you to communicate in
I know what
different
happened.
ways? By walking around or knocking?
Me?
specifically, yeah.
I don't think so.
What if it's the guy that got buried outside of the cemetery? And he has to walk the perimeter of the cemetery. Are you buried here?
I'm walking.
That's weird, I just said.
The men see.
He's walking around. Are you walking around the cemetery?
Right.
I heard footsteps.
I definitely heard footsteps.
Yeah,
and then we
footsteps.
shined my
Okay.
light back there afterwards. I didn't see anything, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was, definitely heard footsteps.
And she
You said it was
obviously
really
didn't-
chaotic.
It
Yeah.
was so chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so do you want to keep trying, or do you want to try?
Yeah, do you want to switch over now?
I'll try again. I mean,
Are you okay?
it's fine with me. I enjoy doing it.
Okay.
It's just, it keeps sounding like hard nose coming from
I
there.
feel like we're getting closer, but
feel like
yeah,
we are,
I
too.
mean, it's also, it seems to be, as we get closer to like speaking communication, there seems to be like something physically manifesting.
Yeah.
And in that case, we want to approach with caution and make sure that the proper boundaries are set.
With paranormal activity on the rise, the team makes another attempt to reach out to the spirits inhabiting Pandemonium. With caution, yet open minds and warm hearts, they seek answers to the mysterious sights and sounds they've experienced.
I know it looks a little.
Keep going. Two of them watching. I don't know them. Who are these people? You're at the wrong exit.
Should we go closer to the foundations to talk to you?
Right there. Along the wall.
Are you walking around on the other side of the wall? Should we be over there?
It was killed. Right down there.
We are trying to help you. You don't have to do anything for us. We're a documentary. You don't have to show yourself.
You got
to
it?
us. We're genuinely here to connect with you.
You keep telling them. You can't do it. You're not decent.
Well, we don't want to do anything that bothers you or annoys you, so
Okay.
we're gonna stop.
Do you want us to leave?
Who's talking?
That was me this time.
They say help? Turn off.
All right, we're gonna tap her out because it sounds like they're getting annoyed. We're sorry. We're not trying to be disrespectful.
It's way more voices than last time.
Yeah. It sounds like there's like a lot of continuities with the history of this place, and it sounds like almost every story is kind of coming out that connects to the history. I don't want to make that assumption, but it almost feels like, all of the like known spirits are kind of making themselves known, and also being like, we've seen this before. People come here to communicate a lot, and they just are over it.
They keep saying wrong exit or wrong whatever. So I don't know if that means like we're sitting at the wrong entrance.
That's what I was just thinking.
That's
Like, is this the exit of the cemetery?
Yeah, that's what it seemed like. And then it sounded like, again, like very distinctly like a man, like just very like astute, like, no, like,
Yeah.
go. Oh, you'll help us? You have instructions?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it sounds like they don't really have help that they want. Maybe it's just spirits that were kind of lingering in the woods
just
after
want
either
peace.
something that happened, and they don't.
They don't sound happy. Oh,
Yeah.
look at that.
Well, but it almost sounds like they're comfortable in their misery in a way. Like we're okay walking around this wall of this cemetery
Yeah,
forever.
it's like we don't want help. Like,
They show
like,
themselves
oh,
to
cool.
people,
Yeah, like
but-
what are you gonna do?
So
we had gotten a hard no from a question that we had asked about, do you want to tell us what the town's name is? And we got a hard no, and then we heard footsteps, and whether or not it was head and shoulders of one of us with the lighting or not, but like directly where we heard footsteps there was like the shadow of a head and shoulders. So just something to note, obviously, but.
I think it's a good idea for us to head back to camp and get some rest, maybe do a little research, come back tomorrow knowing their stories, and see if maybe there's someone here who does want to communicate with us in the morning.
Yeah, definitely. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Let's head back to camp.
My research has led me to believe that there may even be a third explanation for the hauntings here in Pandemonium. In December of 1934, the Civilian Conservation Corps was building a fire road up on Bowers Mountain, and one of the workers was actually crushed by a bulldozer. Even though his body was taken back for burial in Latrobe, there is still a marker on a part of the mountain called Dead Man's Curve, not far from the site, which corresponds greatly with the location of the supposed hauntings. Even though this is a very remote location, this graveyard is in an excellent state of preservation, whether that's due to the diligence of the locals or maybe it's these spirits who just don't want to be forgotten. One can't help but feel there is something in the air. For me, it's a perfectly peaceful presence. I don't know if it's because I'm standing on sacred ground, but for me personally, I feel a great peace here. And in a way that is every bit as paranormal as a terrifying demon. If you come here, you do feel something. Even though this graveyard is in an excellent state of preservation, many of these grave markers are illegible. There's so many untold stories here in a cemetery, and I keep coming here year after year trying to learn everybody's history to preserve their memory, and perhaps in some strange way, maybe it's spirits guiding me to do that.
We're nearing the 24th hour at this haunted location. We all spent the night here in tents, and some people have heard some things outside their tent and may have had some experiences during that time. I think we all had a rough night's sleep. We planned on investigating here, but the rain's kind of holding us out. Yeah. And it's not good for the equipment, but I think we have some things that point to some of the answers about the mysteries of Pandemonium, which would be last night when we were doing the Estes, we were receiving responses about his face. And I know some of you weren't told this story yet, but they said this face and the fire, when it actually had happened here, or is thought to have happened, is that someone was hunting and was shot in the back, and when they turned him over, he had a smile on his face. Now, whether or not this is a legend or something that people have retold so many times that it has come into existence, we can kind of guess that maybe that's one of the entities, whether it be a thought form or a human spirit that we might have interacted with. Now, what I'm thinking is the person who's buried outside of the wall of the cemetery may somehow be able to communicate with that spirit, because we were hearing multiple people talk. They seem to be pacing around the cemetery, almost like gatekeepers. So when we started at that entrance, that's the human entrance. And I'm theorizing that perhaps the cemetery acts as a portal. As we enter one side, maybe we aren't getting face to face with the spirits of Pandemonium, and we need to come to this side where you're going to be entering the foundations of the ghost town and other things involved. So I don't think there's anything angry or unrested here, and when we were offering help, they didn't seem to be taking that end of the bargain. And if they're thought forms and they're human thought projected manifestations, it would make sense why they wouldn't need help, because they're basically something that we have created and people have had real interactions with. Unfortunately, there is a little girl spirit that is said to be at this location. We did not encounter anything that pointed towards her presence.
Well, a couple notable things, obviously, as we were investigating last night. There were footsteps, physical manifestations of at least sounds that we could hear. Whether or not it was an animal, we were not able to verify. We did see a shadow at one point that was accompanied with footsteps. Again, unable to verify, but it was an odd coincidence, to say the least. At one point when we were up in our tents last night, probably around 3:45, a couple of us heard footsteps. That was very spooky. So there were definitely sounds out in the woods other than just the people who are here with us right now.
The responses we were getting, we can't definitively say, but it seemed to suggest that they wanted to connect with someone who wasn't just going to come in here looking for a scare. And it seems like probably a lot of teenagers and people come in just looking to facilitate an interaction, but they don't want to build a true bond with anything that may be hanging out here. And I think that was what the apprehension was. They say, you're coming and then you're going, and that's it. You're just children. Look at these children just hanging out because, they want to be respected and remembered for who they were, or who, we've manifested them to be. So one of the things we need to consider when investigating a ghost town is not implying that there was a failure at that location, because I think they want to be remembered for the success and the ideas and hopes and dreams that they had as they settled in this area. So we have to be particularly careful with these spirits, making sure that we're not making it seem like everyone left you behind and what's going on, because they obviously still like to linger here. They still see value in what was once Pandemonium.
Like the responses we were getting and the fact that we've heard so many things, I think that's proof enough that there is something out here.
Definitely, I agree. And especially with it being documented so many times over the years, and I don't think there's a person that's in this group that didn't hear the footsteps or anything like that. Again, we can't point to it being definitively not paranormal, but we did hear footsteps with nothing attached to it, and they were distinct step, and it happened a few times. So we documented that, and I believe that we're starting to, but we're just scratching the surface of what's here.
There's definitely more than just what we experienced last night, that's for sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Definitely.
I think we all have experiences where we have gone into places and a spirit has immediately kind of felt comfortable and felt comforted by whatever we were able to do. We were able to have those communications, but like you said, it's not something that we can at all assert on somebody else or, ensure at all.
Yeah.
Unless you want to be absolutely disrespectful and try to provoke them to a point where they feel they need to defend themselves, which is absolutely not something that we'd, ever be okay with doing.
Exactly.
Or we would ever suggest anyone doing.
Which is why we chose not to immediately pass to the other side when they're telling us, why should we talk to you? And we're offering anything we can think of. The other thing to consider for the time period, this place dates back several hundred years. We don't know if our language is not resonating with them. We don't know what kind of vernacular they used, where they came from, and so it's a little bit harder. Being that I am from Pennsylvania, I do have roots in the Pennsylvania Dutch community that is local to here, but at the same time, if the connection wasn't made, it didn't click the way we thought, and there's not a whole lot we can do with that. It really showed us that we can't control the projection of the investigation as much as we'd like to connect with hopefully human spirits that immediately seem to take a liking when it's something like a thought form or egregore. You don't know what the reaction is. It's almost less consistent, and you can't control that that's going to be the case. Obviously, it sounds less intriguing to people that it's something thought projected, but some of these can be the most unpredictable things, and we don't know. We don't know if someone in this woods intentionally haunted this place, given suggestions around the cemetery. We don't know if someone comes here every day and hopes for it to be haunted so much that it truly is. So we really, kind of had unpredicted outcome, I would say, because we started and thinking we were going to connect with these people, and we're just not there yet.
Yeah.
So that being said, I think it's important that we close the circle that we opened last night. There's no longer an open line of communication between Pandemonium and the people who are present here. We are requesting that nobody follows anybody home, and that this is kind of the end for now. I would love to come back and investigate a second time and see what we can experience closer to the foundations as opposed to just their cemetery. So that being said, we thank anyone who was present and gave us any sort of manifestations via responses or something, physical, such as the footsteps. If that was you, we truly thank you for your time. We thank you for sharing your space with us. And that being said, this is the end of our open communication with you. When you're tackling an investigation that looks like this, where you're in the middle of a forest where a settlement was, you can't really pinpoint where the spirits might linger, because in the older pioneer villages, people are going to be living and walking in between each other. They didn't have like a town or a place that they were driving, so they could almost be manifesting anywhere within these forests, and it would be a natural place for them to be. So outside of the walls of the cemetery, we may encounter spirits that are lingering at foundations of homes or places they used to frequent, or just traveling in between those places. Recently, we've seen a really big shift in the paranormal community to move away from fear-mongering and the fear of spirits and just generally media that tends to scare people. So when we're investigating, we're looking to bring that human nature back to the people who lived here. They deserve respect and dignity, and we're looking to explore that and hopefully make a human connection as opposed to being fearful of someone and running and screaming. You wouldn't enter a location and ask someone immediately, how did you die? You would introduce yourself and you would explore how they were feeling before you asked anything, and even then you might not get to the questions that have that sort of gravity. So I think it's important as we're investigating to remember that these were humans that lived out here potentially, and although we may encounter spirits that may be non-human, it's important to always address things the same way you would any other person in your community. We're returning to the Pandemonium Pioneer Cemetery. We were able to investigate the entrance to the cemetery. However, we did not make it to the other side for fear of disrespecting those who are interred here. The goal today is to make that final attempt and do our due diligence to reach the other side of the cemetery and see what might be lurking over there. In an attempt to pay respects to all of the individuals here, I've brought some coins. It's a universal offering that most cultures accept, and we're going to leave a coin at every single grave before we cross to the other side and try to communicate. And hopefully that shows a sign of humbling ourselves and respect. It also acts a little bit as a ritual. So instead of ritual magic, what we're doing is kind of doing a ritual with the signs of respect in a way that might not look like traditional magic or witchcraft, but it's going to hopefully conjure up some activity here. They say that everyone dies more than one death. One when you pass away, and the second one when someone speaks your name for the last time. So as you're entering the cemetery, it's a good idea to read their names out loud, or at least read them in your head to keep their memory alive, especially when you're investigating. So now we're actually in the other side of the cemetery, which would be closer to where the people of Pandemonium would have lived and traveled through. This might be closer to where the veil is thinner and we might be able to communicate with them. So we're going to start off. We brought some equipment to this side to try and facilitate this communication, and we're going to try a traditional EVP session and hopefully pick up some interesting audio. Hello, my name is Becky. I don't know if you remember me from before, but we asked your permission and we're back to visit and try and communicate with anyone from Pandemonium who might want to communicate with us. Could you tell me your name? It's interesting that when we cross, we're now hearing a lot of animal activity that we weren't before, because it's kind of like the animals might be, akin to the spirits and maybe letting them know that we're over here. It's kind of, I'm curious to see how that's going to affect things, but could you tell me your name? Is it okay that we've returned to visit you? Please understand that by crossing here, we've only done so respectfully, but if you'd like us to leave, let us know. Ending session. It's kind of weird. Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. So, there's traditional paranormal activity, and then there's okay, we came over here, and there's almost like a bird keeping watch of the town. So the EVP session was inconclusive. We didn't have any results with that, so we're going to try something different. Using a pendulum and a pendulum answer board is a very, very old method of divination. It's traditional. It's more used in spiritualism than it is ghost hunting, but both of the worlds kind of blend together very nicely, and sometimes some of these more organic methods can bring forth some great responses. So I have here the pendulum and the board. The board has several suggested answers. When you are doing this, you're going to want to make sure that there's a little bit of slack here. So a lot of people just do this, and that will give you just kind of chaotic answers, but you want to have a little bit of control because you're also using some of your energy to receive these responses. It's used by witches and mediums, and it can really be great. Okay, so I have this pendulum. It's a little gem on this chain here, and you can use it to give us answers and communicate with us if you'd like. Is there anyone here who would like to communicate with us? You can swing side to side for yes or up and down for no. There's also some other answers on the board you can use. Is there anyone on this side of Pandemonium that would like to communicate with us today? Yes, I swear I'm not doing that. Can you tell us if you were here the last time we were here? Yes. Can you tell me if you lived here in Pandemonium? Yes. You notice how when I'm not asking questions that this isn't moving at all? Because now it's just kind of like hovering. Can you tell me about the accident that happened out here? Did something happen with a gun? Oh my gosh, it's saying no, just like we suspected. So we felt that the story of the man hurt in a hunting accident where they turned him over and he was smiling, we felt as though that was an urban legend that might not have actually happened. Although we received some communications the last time we were here, like we were talking to him, we felt maybe this is a thought form, and all of these people feel that this actually happened, so it actually created some sort of non-human entity that we are communicating with. And if we're going by those results, we're getting suggestions that we were right on with that. Are there folks here that act as gatekeepers for the cemetery to make sure that people don't cross when they're not supposed to? Oh, I just got goosebumps. Yes. We're getting confirmation from all the results that we had, like we never even left. Would you like us to come back again? Thinking about that one. Thank you, Spirit. We appreciate all the answers. It looks like it's saying maybe that it wants us to come back. We're just doing our best to tell your story. I know you've been doing a really great job with the pendulum, but is there any way you could give me another sign that you're here? Maybe a knock or the footsteps we heard last time, if that was you? Saying yes. All right, I'm going to take this away for a minute. If you can make a sound, that would be really great. Any sound, whisper. Maybe make those footsteps we heard again. Did you just hear something in the woods?
I thought I did there,
Yeah, it sounded like branches breaking. If that was you making a sound in the woods, could you do it again? Kind of hearing something over here. So we are hearing a lot of sounds, activity happening that way. If that was you making those sounds for us, we really appreciate it. Is there someone here who is buried outside the walls of the cemetery? Feels left out? Yes. So maybe some of the legends are true. There is the altar that we saw outside of the cemetery, and there are legends associated with it we found in our research. We're not exactly sure who it was or if it's just a story that was passed in time. Okay. All right. So I'm going to put this away, and then we're going to try a spirit box session. Because I'm investigating by myself here, we're unable to do the Estes method where the radio would rapidly scan through stations and white noise to come up with responses. So we are going to do a traditional spirit box session. We scan it so rapidly that there's just going to be noise and there shouldn't be anything coming through the radio. So if we're getting responses, allegedly, and the theory is that the spirits are using the white noise of the radio stations to communicate with us. So I have this box here. You can use your energy to communicate with us. I hope it makes it a little bit easier for you. I know you can give us yes and no answers at this point. I'm confident that we're speaking to some of the spirits we were before. So I'm going to ask you some questions about yourself, and hopefully you can respond using this device. If there's someone here from Pandemonium, can you tell us your name? If there's someone present who lived out here, could you tell us what your name is? It's something. Could you repeat that? I know it's really difficult to use your energy to communicate, but we'd appreciate it if you could talk a little bit louder. Can you tell me your name? It's like we're getting stuff, but it's not clear. So that's good when you're hearing these sweeps and you're not hearing a bunch of noise. That means it's going over multiple sweeps when you're getting these responses. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Did you just tell us to leave? We'll leave if that's what you want us to do. Can you tell us who is making the sounds in the woods? I was. All All right, so it didn't seem like they liked interacting with the spirit box as much as they did the pendulum. I'm gonna guess it's because they didn't really know what it was. We were receiving responses that were kind of like, what's that? But as we know, the spirits here are a little apprehensive on communication, as the last time we were working with them, they kind of took about a half hour, maybe an hour to actually warm up and start giving us real responses. It does seem like they're a little more open today, as if they might remember us. They were kind of responding to things really right away, but the spirit box does not seem like something they want to interact with. We do get a lot of organic communication. I can see why people who were out here hunting in the woods might have been a little spooked hearing the sounds of footsteps when no one else is present, and especially if they asked if anyone's there and they're hearing the knocking and the scratching and things that we're hearing, I can see why this place has such a reputation for being haunted. I think there's definitely room for other investigators to come in here and figure out some more stuff, but because this isn't a residential haunting, it doesn't need to be solved. I think it's okay if a spot in the woods is a little bit inhabited by spirits. All right, so now I'm getting ready to exit. I appreciate anyone who let me communicate in the town of Pandemonium on your side of the cemetery. I know that you were a little nervous about letting someone in there and communicating, and it upset you before, so we really appreciate you opening up and giving us confirmation of some of the answers we got on the last investigation. That all being said, the mystery of Pandemonium is still at large. I think there's still a lot that we can learn from this place and investigate here. I think one of the important lessons that we learned coming here is to not write locations off based on fact or fiction. I think it's important to always acknowledge the truth, investigate the truth, and do our research. However, when it comes to these locations, we can still have activity from thought forms as we've seen, and I think that there could be activity at a place that has nothing to do with the urban legend. I don't think anyone should be discouraged, especially when we have open locations like this. Paranormal investigations are not reserved solely for people who do this all the time, especially in a place in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania. When it comes to investigating cemeteries, I think there's a way we can do it with respect, and I think we can do it with integrity and come up with some great results like we've had in Pandemonium.